Hello everybody. So this video is entitled MSTR stock even bigger buy. B for Bitcoin, of course. Taking off, and we're going to talk about Stretch as well, because of course we had a very eventful week this past trading week. But the big news, of course, is strategy stock over the past week, 5 days, is up 32%. At one point, Friday morning during the trading day, it was up close to 35%. So that's the outperformance. We owe this outperformance, I would argue, still mostly to the V-shaped recovery we're seeing in stocks and the V-shaped recovery we especially saw in Bitcoin. Bitcoin almost knocked on 78K. I think on some exchanges it broke 78K for like a few minutes. That's how high it went. And all of this happened, of course, because of signals from Iran saying that Hormuz was open. Now, today, we have Bitcoin dropping, especially this morning, because we had other things from Iran who said, oh, it was never open. My understanding of Iran, which I'm not interested in this topic. This is a topic the market is forcing me to talk about this. This is not a topic that interests me. But my understanding is that there's two governments, and the two governments don't speak in unison. That's kind of my understanding of the madness over there, but I'm not interested in this topic. I'm interested in Bitcoin. I'm interested in strategy. I'm interested in the future of money, the future of hard money, the future of credit. I'm interested in innovation, and I'm interested in Saylor and the major buy that he's going to announce tomorrow. Think even bigger. Could this be the biggest buy in the history of strategy tomorrow? I sure hope so. I sure think so. I think it could be. Note, MNAV went up to a 1.26. That's amazing. A few days ago, like a week ago, we were at a 1.1 and change low. Like we increased a good 10% in MNAV. Strategy clearly outperforming Bitcoin for the last streak of a few days. So that's really, really good. I'm happy to see that the Fear and Greed Index came back into the neutral territory. Yesterday, we had broken into greed territory. I obviously don't like that. I happen to believe that the markets last week went up too far, too fast. I think we need to slow down next week. And, with Pakistan negotiations happening again, I think on Monday, I think we're going to get a little bit of a slowdown, and that's good. I want a slowdown. I don't want that V to be so V-like that it becomes like an L-shaped recovery. I don't want any of that, right? So hopefully we get a little bit of a slowdown tomorrow and the next few trading days so that we can actually establish a new base, right? But the market, unfortunately, has been very explosive. Let's talk about Stretch. Stretch also had a very eventful week. In a good way at the beginning of the week, in a bad way at the end of the week. So Stretch.live, of course, the yield terminal. I cannot recommend this site enough. It's a really good site. I love it. No financial advice, no investment advice, no site advice. But you get what I mean. What did they show? So, first of all, they showed that E may have ATM'd up to 17,000 BTC. He could have ATM'd so much money to the point that he could have bought 17,000 BTC. Why is that very impressive? Because it only happened over a 2-day period. Now, we know that the days right before the ex-dividend date are amazing days for strategy. But what is especially impressive is that Stretch.live is telling us in 2 days it did 17,000 Bitcoin versus the prior week, right, from April 6 to April 10. In 5 days of full ATM the week prior to that was only 9,000 Bitcoin. So we're not quite, but we're almost double last week's raise in only 2 days. So that's amazing. That's exponential growth in the demand for Stretch here. That's half a order of magnitude, essentially. That's really, really amazing. And on top of that, keep in mind that Stretch.live has been historically off by quite a bit at times, between 30 and 50% off from the actual number. Now, I'm assuming, of course, all of these platforms, we're still trying to understand strategy and how it works. They're improving. The algo improves over time. So I think over time they will be way less off until they get it right. But that could mean, could we round that up to 20,000 BTC from Stretch, probably announced tomorrow? I think so. I think so. Assuming they're only 15% off, assuming something like that, I think we could get a 20,000 BTC from Stretch tomorrow, which would be amazing. Now, for the bad events, the bad eventful part on Stretch yesterday is, of course, the normie influencer video. I cannot believe how the exposure to these videos was in the millions, by the way, in the millions of views, over 2 videos. The second video was more targeted at Strive, SATA owning STRC. It was more targeted at Strive, but still, in my view, that counts as 2 massive anti-STRC FUD videos that were released exactly at the worst time, exactly on ex-dividend day. It almost makes you wonder if, why would we release that on the worst day possible? Whatever. But the problem is, I think this has led to a slower recovery from the ex-dividend date, because here's the problem, and of course Saylor is probably aware of that. If it takes you 10 minutes to convince someone to buy STRC, their conviction is going to be a conviction of 10 minutes. And therefore, you can have a third video which lasts 20 minutes and you can remove the conviction, right? The people who buy STRC, one portion of the people who buy STRC are not all gung-ho about Bitcoin, right? They didn't do the thousands of hours on Bitcoin. So even though there are people who adopt the barbell strategy, there are people who adopt the treasury strategy where they understand Bitcoin and they understand STRC. And this shareholder base for STRC is very, very strong. But I think there are also holders of STRC who are more fickle, who buy STRC without necessarily understanding Bitcoin. And those are the folks subject to FUD, subject to believing the FUD, because they came mostly for the yield without doing the homework on Bitcoin. Now, I have no doubt that Saylor will keep doing the work on Bitcoin as well and continue the Bitcoin education, because it is still essential to understand how STRC works. But I think for the time being, STRC, since it doesn't have a track record, dividend stocks, when they have a track record, they're less prone to FUD attack. Like you take dividend aristocrats, dividend kings, like people just own them for the dividend. But STRC needs to establish a track record if it wants to trade just on its track record. Otherwise, it's still going to be subject to FUD attack. Anyways, the point is 2 things. Saylor noticed that FUD attack because, of course, much of that FUD attack was about this ad, which, frankly, I thought was a fine ad. But if he tweeted, if this makes you uncomfortable, it's working. Kind of a nod to the attack, right? And then I think I wonder how the bi-monthly, the semi-monthly dividend here. I wonder if that decision had anything to do with the FUD attack. It could. We know Saylor moves very, very fast. Like it could be that he came up with that on Wednesday, and that obviously is going to be a response. This will lower the volatility of Stretch by 2. Stretch will be the volatility of Stretch will be twice as little as it is right now, because we will have 2 ex-dividend dates a month as opposed to 1 ex-dividend date a month. And that's going to change a lot of things. And that's a very big change, very big deal. I love it very much. So anyways, I say we get probably about 20,000 Bitcoins bought from the STRC ATM. And then the other question to answer is how many Bitcoins were bought from the common ATM. Now, according to famed MSTR influencer punter Jeff, he just tweeted this an hour ago, his estimates between, I guess, 5,000 and 23,000 Bitcoin are his estimates. That's fine by me. I will estimate about 10,000 Bitcoin. Now, I've been sticking to my 10K Bitcoin MSTR common ATM week for 2 weeks already, and I've been wrong twice, because the 2 times I had predicted that he would do the common ATM, he didn't do it. So keep that in mind. The past 2 weeks, I haven't been very good at the ATM prediction. And I'm biased because I love the common ATM. I want him to get back into the common ATM. So I'm very biased too, right? But anyways, this time, what do I think? This time I think he ATM'd. No, seriously, I think he ATM'd this time. Why? Because it's been apparent to me now, and I've gone back to this a few times. Many of you pointed it out in the comment section as well. We always ATM on the common into strength. He said that before. It's true. Therefore, what did we have last week? Especially the last 2 trading days. Especially yesterday, 2 days ago, Friday. Especially Friday. What did we have? We had major strength in MSTR. If he only ATMs into strength, I think it's possible that he ATM'd a lot on Friday. And then point number 2, you want to buy more Bitcoin. You can't really buy more Bitcoin when Stretch was halted, right? Stretch ATM, it wouldn't be the common ATM, right? So the Stretch preferred ATM was halted, and therefore I think that's another big reason as to why you could have ATM. So you could have ATM because why? We had major strength on Friday. The Stretch ATM was halted. And lastly, I'll conclude this. I didn't put it in there, but I'll conclude this. 1.26, selling $1 for $1.26. You know, selling a $100 bill for $126. Not a bad deal. So that the MNAV was up, so it's pretty tempting to bring it down from this level. So my estimate, once again for tomorrow, is a 30K BTC. 20K from Stretch, 10K from the common. And we'll see if I get it right or if I get it wrong. Over the long term, this makes no difference. But you know, these videos I love to make. It's interesting to me to predict that. It's much more interesting to me than the all Hiran madness. That's interesting to me. Predicting how strategy is going to do week after week. I find that exciting, interesting, intellectual. It just brings out the best out of our community. And I can't wait for this macro madness to end. Seriously. This macro madness needs to end. We need to focus on fundamentals again. Anyways, this was not investment advice. This is not financial advice. This is only entertainment. I'm hoping you were entertained. Please like, please subscribe. Follow me on Patreon, follow me on X. Thank you for watching, and have a wonderful, wonderful day.